Awake, awake, my old true love yearn. Awake, awake, it's almost day. How can you bear love to sleep and to slumber? And your old love, you're a-going away. So I'll go down on yonder's river. I'll spend my weeks, my months, my days. I'll eat nothing but green willer, nor drink nothing but my tears.
Hello, I'm Tim Barnwell, and welcome to the Face of Appalachia. You've been listening to the voice of my friend Sheila Kay Adams, who comes from a long line of ballad singers from Madison County in the remote mountains of western North Carolina. These old Scots-Irish ballads were passed down in the oral tradition from one generation to the next. They were brought to America by early settlers from the British Isles and were known as love songs. A part of everyday life, they were sung by people as they worked in the fields and at home around the fire. In this episode, we'll learn about Sheila's remarkable life and visit with her daughter, Melanie Rice, cousin Donna Norton, and hear them and other singers perform a variety of unaccompanied ballads. Sheila carries on the tradition of passing down these songs and is a living bridge between past singers and those interested in learning them today. It's reassuring to know that there are folks out there who are learning these ballads to share with others, both now and for the future.
Said a pretty fair miss all in her garden, and a handsome young soldier came riding by. Said, could I impose on a fair young maiden and ask her for my bride to be? Well, I'm Sheila Kay Adams, and I was born and raised in Madison County, still live here. And I grew up in a little community called Sodom. And the only similarity in the Sodom in the Bible, and the one I grew up in, is the way that it's spelled. And there's a whole big long story that goes along with that about a Baptist minister that came through there doing a brush arbor revival. And he found out there was a band of ladies of the evening that frequented that area, and he said there was more sinning went on in that community than went on in Sodom in the Bible. And so the name Sodom stuck. And if he stays gone 7 years longer, no man on earth couldn't marry me. I grew up in a family of musicians and singers. There were still 9 traditional singers of the old love songs, ballads, that I grew up around and spent a lot of time with. And as a result of that, I learned a bunch of those love songs. And it's hard to explain, but when you live in a little rural community, most people are related by birth, by marriage, and both. And so there was a community within that community of singers, and it was a big crowd of them. I think in 1976, when we went up to the Smithsonian Folklife Festival that celebrated our nation's birthday, it was, there were 9 of us, if I remember right. Being long and slender, all in his pockets they did go. Said, here's the ring that you once gave me before I left here for the war. I don't ever remember there being a time in my life when I didn't hear music, when music wasn't a part of our everyday life, because the ballads were definitely in context back then. Whenever they worked outside, whenever they dealt with animals, milking the cow, stuff like that, feeding the chickens, they would always be singing a song. And then there was, of course, my Uncle Bardray, who was a fiddle player, Aubrey Ramsey, great banjo player. And Madison County is known for its traditional music. And so I can't recall a time in my life that I didn't have music in my life. No girl on earth could have married me. That's pretty famous. I did learn a lot of songs from Dellie Norton and Brazilla Walling. Kaz Walling taught me my first one, which was Pretty Fair Miss. I learned from Dillard Chandler. I learned a couple from Doug Walling and Bobby McMillan. So there were a bunch of people that influenced my singing. I remember the very first ballad that I learned from Kaz Walling. And I'm sure you remember Kaz. He was quite a character. He was the little man with the big voice. He knew a bunch of what he called sacred songs, but he knew just as many what he called love songs. And for those of you that don't know, love songs include all manners of songs, as long as they're not sacred songs. And they are violent and heads being cut off and kicked against the wall and that sort of thing. And usually it's the woman that goes through all the trials and tribulations. But I've got a bunch of young girls now, young women, that are trying their best to find ballads where the woman always manages somehow to escape death and turn out to be the conqueror. Yeah.
The heart is the fortune of all womankind. They're always controlled and they're always confined. Controlled by their parents until they are wives, but then bound to their husbands for the rest of their lives. My name is Melanie Rice. From right here. My mama brought me home to this very house in 1971 when I was born in November, and I've lived here all my life. My grandfather built the house I'm living in now. Courted me truly by night and by day, but now he is loaded and he's driving away.
You were around ballads when you were real young, but when did you first maybe start trying to learn one, and why do you think you wanted to do that?
Well, it's a funny story. Donna Ray and I often talk about it. Four Nights Drunk is always the song that attracts us first because it has the word drunk in it, right? It was a long time before I realized what the song was actually about, but because of the naughty words. Also, the song so I learned that one because of the words. As long as you can stay, my horses ain't hungry, they won't eat your hay. So fare thee well, darling, I'll be on my way. The song that I learned first because I wanted it was because Evelyn Ramsey sang Black is the Color. And she was one of those singers, she would always say, you just got to rear your head back and sing. And she sang that, and when she sang Black is the Color, it would bring up goose pimples on my arms. And I just remember thinking how powerful the song was and how mournful, and I loved the stories. So Black is the Color is the first one that made me want to learn a ballad. For I am a poor girl and my lover has gone. Wagoneers, lad.
There was a rich lady from London she came. Fine Sally, fine Sally, fine Sally was her name. and she had more money than a king could possess. Her neatness and her beauty was worth all the rest. My name is Donna Norton, and I'm an 8th generation ballad singer from right here in Madison County, a little community called Sodom Laurel. I was born on my mom's birthday, February 1st, and her father, my grandfather, Bard Ray, actually passed away on our birthday, February 1st in 1988. Yeah. So I have the ballad singing coming at me from both sides. I'm an 8th generation ballad singer on my mom's side, and I'm 5th generation on my dad's side. And my grandfather on my dad's side was Morris Norton. He played the tune bow, the banjo. He was a dancer, and he also sang the ballads. Bard Ray was my grandfather on my mom's side. He was a world famous musician, played the fiddle. He also knew how to play the banjo, and he sang the ballads as well. You'll pay for this deed. I'll curse you, Sally, all the rest of my days, and I'll never forgive you for your lying ways. I'm the baby grandchild on both sides. Mom had me when she was 37. So I just sort of, I didn't inherit any land or house or money or anything like that. And so I kind of feel like this is my inheritance. And it just really struck me when Mom died that, this is my thing and I want to do this and I love this so much. And it's just a way for me to share my family's history and our heritage and share my voice with the world and teach people about where I'm from and who our people are and the way that we always were. I feel like people in the country a lot of times, in the Appalachian mountains, get a bad rap. Sometimes people stereotype us, I feel like, and that's not who we really are. And so for me, it's important to show who we really are, and so I'm really proud of where I come from. Damn, you're so willing, you can be on your way. For to beg you for mercy is not in my sway. From often her fingers pulled diamond rings 3, says here is your token to remember poor me. And as you dance on my grave, sir, shed not no tears for me. Just remember you're a dancing on Sally, your queen. Fine, Sally.
In 1916, folk song collector Cecil Sharp came to western North Carolina at the behest of Olive Campbell, who had already traveled the area collecting hundreds of songs and ballads, a story fictionalized in the movie Songcatcher, released in 2000. Miss Campbell had strong connections to the area and later founded the John C. Campbell Folk School in Brasstown, North Carolina. Cecil Sharp had a history of preserving British songs and dances and brought his talents to America. Accompanied by his assistant Maud Carpels, he arrived in Madison County, North Carolina in July of 1916 and spent the next month transcribing songs and ballads that were brought from England, Scotland, and Ireland and had taken root in this remote mountain community. One of the prominent musicians he met was Mitchell Wallen, a fiddle player who drove him around to meet relatives and neighbors, including his half-sister Mary Sands. Pregnant at the time with her 10th child, Mary sang over 25 songs with Sharp notated, most of which were included in the 2-volume English Folk Songs from the Southern Appalachians, published by Sharp and Olive Campbell. Cecil Sharp collected songs from about a dozen families in Madison County, including the Wallens, Sheltons, and Chandlers, getting over 70 from Jane Hicks Gentry alone, the most from a single person. Ballads were passed down through lineages from one generation to the next, and many of the folks that Sheila Kay Adams learned from, and references here, were direct descendants of the original Madison County families, which included her great-great-aunt Mary Sands. A major influence on Sheila was her great-aunt Dellie Notron, who she calls Granny. She spent a lot of time with her growing up and learned ballads by sitting knee to knee with her as they sang verses back and forth. Sheila has devoted her life to performing and passing on these ballads, and her efforts have contributed to many young singers, including her daughter Melanie Rice and second cousin Donna Norton, continuing to sing these old love songs, allowing this river of ballads to continue to flow.
It's snowing, world is turning white.
So tell me about Dellie Norton. I know you called her Granny, but she was your aunt?
She was my great
Great
aunt.
aunt.
By marriage, she married my grandfather's brother. We called him Purdy Pap, but his real name was Ross Norton, and he was my grandfather's, I think, 2 years older brother. And so I spent a lot of time with Granny after my maternal grandmother passed away in 1958. And I was left at 5 years old without a grandmother. And so I adopted her as my grandmother because she was the grandmother of a lot of my cousins. And so she didn't have no choice in the matter. I just showed up and wouldn't leave. And she was a great singer and a great person. She had a welcoming heart and a loving, as Bobby used to call it, countenance. She was a very special person.
So she lived on a farm in the area near you?
Yeah, she lived up at the very head of the Burton Cove, and had a big farm up there. She grew a big garden, and they would sing and tell stories on the porch at night after they'd worked all day in the tobacco. They grew a lot of tobacco. They killed a hog every year. They had milk cows, plowed with a mule. All of the things that all of these young people are getting back into now, which I think is kind of interesting. I wonder what Granny would have thought about that. But she lived up there by herself after Ross died. Uncle Ross died in the early 60s, and so she lived up there by herself until 1993.
So she never married?
Never married again.
Yeah.
And she raised 4 of his children from a previous marriage, and I think 5 of her own.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Strong lady.
Yes, she was.
Yeah. I know you told me that you used to sit kind of knee to knee, I guess it was, to kind of learn about it. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Right. It's funny, I have decided that it was because my attention span was so short. I might have been ADHD and didn't know it at the time. But they would sit, about 6 inches away from me, and they would sing a verse to me, and then I had to sing it back to them. And then they would sing the second verse to me, and I would have to sing the first and second verse back to them. So by the end of the song, a 15-verse song, they would be singing one verse, and I would be having to start all the way back at the beginning and sing forward the 15 verses. And they expected me to have the tune, the words memorized, and all of the ornamentation that they put in them as well. Cecil Sharp says in his book, Folk Songs of the Southern Appalachians, English and Scottish folk songs from the Southern Appalachians. It's, I think, the official title to it. But he says in there that he found a nest of singing birds where they were just as apt to go to singing as they were talking. And he said the richest area was in the Laurel region of Madison County and East Tennessee. So that would have been my family.
Right. So have you tried to pass this down to your children and cousins and nieces and nephews?
I was bereft there for a while because my 3 kids, Melanie was slightly interested in singing them. Now, but it's funny, Andrew learned a bunch of them when he was a young teenager. Hart learned very few of them. He loved the ones like Four Nights Drunk and Single Girl and, those, the more bawdy ballads. And Melanie really didn't get all that enthused about it, even though she got a master's degree in Appalachian studies. And then she got a little age on her. And Granny always said, you have to ripen first before you can appreciate these old songs. And so when Melanie, after she had her child, she was about 35, 36 in there, she took to these songs and wanted to learn, all of a sudden she wanted to learn these songs.
So why don't you tell me about your mom a little bit?
Well, so I'm daughter of Sheila Kay Adams, NEA award winner, national treasure. She's won lots of awards, been lots of places, is a very important person, but she's always just sort of been my mom. And so whenever she would take off to go to a festival or to a performance, I was a good traveler, and she'd say, well, get your go bag ready, let's go. And I would put all my books and my puzzles and all my stuff in my little bag, and away we'd go. I just felt like I was so blessed to have been raised with her and traveling with her. She was only 18 when I was born, so we grew up kind of together. Super proud of her as a ballad singer, super proud of her as the cultural icon she is. But I do like to remind all the other ballad singers that I'm the only one that got to hear the heartbeat from the inside. But she's a force of nature and continues to be a force of nature. I'm super blessed to have gotten to grow up in that environment with her. The thing about ballads, and one of the things I love about ballads, is that they are the story of every man. And for all of us ballad singers, we have songs that help us through our lives and help us to remember certain people or help us to get through a certain event. And so this song not only is my favorite from childhood, but also represents kind of one of my loves in my life. His name was Mark, and he had black hair, and he recently passed away. So over the last 25 years, so half of my life as a ballad singer, this song has been about him. One of the things that ballad singers do, because for anything to survive, it evolves. And so we all have our own versions. Like when Mom says that she sings Dillard's version of a song, or she sings Dellie's version, really it's her own version because she's changed something within that song. Because we all have a different message. In Black is the Color, number one, it's written about a woman originally. And number two, the first verse says, black is the color of my true love's hair. Her face is like some rosy fair. With the prettiest face and the neatest hands, I love the ground whereon she stands. But I have my own version now, wherein I'm singing to a different human altogether. So this is my version of Black is the Color. Black is the color of my true love's hair. With eyes so green none can compare. With an angel's face but a devil's hands. I love the ground whereon he stands. I love my love, and well he knows. I love the ground whereon he goes. If you know more on earth I see, I won't serve you as you have me. The winter's past and the leaves are green. Our time is past that we have seen, and still I hope the day will come when you and I shall be as one. I'll go to the cloud for to mourn and weep, but dissatisfied I never could sleep to think of you by another's side, while I sit and watch this river glide. So fare thee well, my own true love. Our time is past, but I wish you well. I'll write for you these few short lines, but I'll suffer death 10,000 times. I love my love, and well he knows. I love the ground whereon he goes. If you no more on earth I see, I can't serve you as you have me. Black is the color.
So Sheila has just always sort of been my idol as far as all this goes, and she's been a mentor to me, and she's always been really special to me. And Mom used to take me over to Sheila's when I was a little girl, and they would have, I guess they would call them porch parties now, but we were inside back then. And I remember Mom and Sheila, Bobby McMillan, I mean, there were all sorts of people that would come over. And they would all sit in the kitchen and they would play music and they would sing and they would tell stories. And, you know, some of them were dirty jokes and stories and songs. And so I was always the one that was like stealing away over by the door trying to hear what was going on in there. And I think Sheila and I just have a really strong connection to one another. I feel like we're very similar in a lot of ways. And, you know, when Mom died, Sheila really stepped in for me and sort of took me under her wing, and I don't know what I would do without her these days. You know, when all that stuff happened with her last year and her health failed and she was in the hospital and she died for 2 minutes, I mean, that was terrifying for me because I had just lost my mom, you know, and of how much I love Sheila. She's such a good person, and, you know, she's just got all this light that she shares and shines all over everybody, and I kind of feel like, you know, like I said, I feel like we're very similar, and so it's been really special to me to have all this time that I've had with her. We've gotten really close over the last year, and like I said, since Mom died. This song is called Single Girl, and I learned this from a ballad singer named Mary Jane Queen from over in Jackson County. Also, this song was sung by, I think maybe it was Jean Ritchie that sang this song for Cecil Sharp in 1916. When I was single, to marry was my crave. Now I am married, I'm troubled to my grave. I wish I was a single girl again. Lord, Lord, don't I wish I was a single girl again. When I was single, he used to come to court. He always brought me candy, and I thought he was a sport. I wish I was a single girl again. Lord, Lord, don't I wish I was a single girl again. When I was single, I went where I pleased. Now I am married with a baby on each knee. I wish I was a single girl again. Lord, Lord, don't I wish I was a single girl again. When I was single, went dressed oh so fine. Now I am married, run ragged all the time. I wish I was a single girl again. Lord, Lord, don't I wish I was a single girl again. the cows to milk, and the spring to go to. A whole crowd of young uns a crying after you. I wish I was a single girl again. Lord, Lord, don't I wish I was a single girl again. Now I am married, I set me down to weep. My husband chews tobacco and he snores in his sleep. I wish I was a single girl again. Lord, Lord, don't I wish I was a single girl again. Now I am married, and what do you think? He bought a checkered apron and he showed me to the sink. I wish I was a single girl again. Lord, Lord, don't I wish I was a single girl again. When I was single, ate biscuits and pie. Now I am married, it's eat cornbread or die. I wish I was a single girl again. Lord, Lord, don't I wish I was a single girl again. Single girl.
I'm Josh Kopis. I'm an artist and a creative entrepreneur, and I am the owner of Zadie's Restaurant and the Old Marshall Jail Hotel, and I am from Appalachia, and I live here in the fine town of Marshall. I knew about the ballad singing. I didn't grow up here, but I feel like I'm from here, and you know, Donna, Ray, Norton, and Sheila Kay Adams, and Melanie Rice. These are people that I knew of them, and you know, I always like wanted to be friends with them. And I understood the significance of that tradition and wanted to be a part of it. And there was a fortuitous day where Donna, Ray, and Melanie were here having lunch, and I happened to be here, and I offered to give them a tour of the building. And we've got a collection of historical documents on display, and one of those documents was actually about Donna Ray's dad. And that was a moment that you know, wasn't planned or wasn't scripted, and it was obvious at that point that like we were going to be best friends for life. And we talked about doing an event, and actually the first thing we did was Sheila Kay Adams' 70th birthday party. That was the first ballad swap, and it was amazing. And we said, well, let's just keep it going.
When morning dawned, the orphan girl still lay at the rich man's door, but her soul had fled to a world above, where there's room and bread for the poor. Little orphan girl.
This is Little Margaret. Little Margaret sitting in her high hall chair, combing back her long yellow hair, saw sweet William and his new maid bride riding up the road so near. She threw down her ivory comb.
In a quiet and little town not many miles away, there lived an old indigent man whose hair's a turning gray. He had 3 sons, 3 lonely ones, both Tom and Will were sly.
When sorrows encompass me around, and any distresses I see, astonished I cry, can a mortal be found, surrounded by troubles like me? May I be prepared?
I'll go with you, preach the gospel, and I'll preach with you. Lord, if I go, tell me what to say, for they won't believe on me. My hands were tied, my feet was bound, the elements open and the Lord come down. The voice I heard, it sounds so sweet, the love run down through the soles of my feet. Jesus says go, I go.
I'm going to travel the wilderness through. Therefore, love Nancy, I'll bid you adieu. I'm going to travel a many long mile. Therefore, love Nancy, I'll leave you for a while.
We have the ballad swap every second Wednesday of the month from 6 to 8. And it's one of the most incredible, authentic Appalachian cultural experiences that I've ever been a part of.
So tell me a little bit about Sheila and how you got to know her.
I love Sheila. I knew Sheila. Sheila's like a treasure of North Carolina. Before I met her, I was a fan of her music, and I knew of her significance to this place. And I was lucky to become her friend, and Sheila is like one of my moms now. And she's really something special, and I'm just really lucky to have her in my life.
This is one that is known by a lot of different names, but the name that I grew up learning it was My Dearest Dear, and it's also called The Blackest Crow, and My Dearest Dear, The Time Draws Near. It's got quite a few names, but My Dearest Dear was the way that I learned it from Caswally. So, and yeah, I just think it's one of the prettiest love songs ever written. But it does have that theme of a disappointment that all true mountain ballads have to have in it. So, my dearest dear, the time draws near when you and I must part, and no one knows the inner grief of my aching heart, or what I've suffered for your sake, the one I love so dear. I wish that I could go with you, or that you might tarry here. I wished your breast was made of glass, and in it I'd behold my name in secret. I would write in letters of bright gold, in letters of bright gold, my dear. Remember when I say you are the one that I'll love best unto my dying day. And when you're on some distant shore, think on your absent friend. And when the wind blows high and clear, a line to me pray send. And when the wind blows high and clear, pray send it, love, to me, so that I might know by your hand write how times has gone with thee. My dearest dear.
That's wonderful.
Isn't that pretty?
So you've done ballad singing, you've written novels, you've recorded music. What do you want your legacy to be?
My passion has always been the ballads. Because I think out of all the stuff that I've done in my life, it's probably the traditional ballad singing that stands to fall by the wayside now, especially with the internet and all of that. But I would like for my legacy to be that, you know, there are things from our past that really do invoke joy to our souls. And these people that taught me all the love songs and taught me how to play fiddle tunes on the banjo and were just the people that they were, the characters in my stories. You know, I would hope the legacy is that I have introduced people to a very unique spot on the big planet that we live on, that treasured that which was in their soul and heart.
On this channel, I hope to continue to honor the people, vibrant culture, and strong traditions of Appalachia. If you share my interest in the people and places I call home, be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons to learn more about this way of life. If you like the black and white photographs you see in our videos, you can find my books online at barnwellphoto.com. You can find us at thefaceofappalachia.com and barnwellphoto.com and on Instagram at Tim Barnwell Photography. Thanks for stopping by. Hope to see you again soon.